I tackle him, but when I tackled him, we fell in this like weird, I still don't even know how to describe it. Basically, like his sweatshirt was coming off, so we kind of like slipped my grip, and then like we both fell to the ground, but like he was kind of behind me, if that makes sense. He starts reaching over. I thought he was going to just go for like a body grip. And then next thing I hear is boom. And I was like, what the hell? I look down. He's got his hand on my gun and he's pulling it out of the holster.
So you got to ask yourself, why do you want to do this? What keeps you motivated to stay proactive and get bad guys off the street?
The facts is a big cannon against a little tiny gun of opinions, because we've all heard people give us their opinions.
Let's talk about how easy it is to get narcotics in this country. Once they're in this country, anywhere within 2 days, the drugs will be in our cities.
Because we know knowledge is power.
Well, Austin and Matt, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
I'm just making sure. I don't know if you know him by Matthew
Austin.
or, yeah. So
either way, you can call me dipshit if you want. It's fun.
His mom got mad at me for calling him Matt, like our first podcast.
Really?
I was like, I'm like, I don't know.
She's very particular about my name. She's one of those parents, but she means
I don't want to make your mom mad. So Matthew and Austin.
That. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Barrel podcast. Basically, what I want to know is everything outside of law enforcement. Like, what got you here? Where you grew up? Did you play sports? Siblings, parents, the whole everything about
Mother's maiden name, credit card information.
Oh yeah, for sure. Social security number.
Yeah, we're gonna hack into all that.
One of those podcasts.
Yeah. Well, hey man, we appreciate you having us on. This is actually the first podcast other than our own that we've really done. So this is kind of cool. First time.
Our first guest spot.
We're the guests this time, which is kind of interesting. So
awesome.
Well, my name's Matthew. I have been living in the Western United States for the past 30 years, loving pretty much most of it. Grew up, played lacrosse and football in high school. I was mediocre at best and knew I wasn't really going to be picking up any scholarships. So went to college for criminal justice, had aspirations of becoming a defense attorney, believe it or not. I was going to be on the other side of this whole thing. And then
bad move.
I realized, well, the funny part, so I got into law school. Like I took the LSAT, I applied for the school that I wanted to get into, which I'm not going to name here. Sorry. But I got accepted and it was awesome. And it was like, it's one of the top, 500 or top 100 law schools in the country. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then I get this financial sheet that's like showing what it's going to cost per semester. And I like went blind in my left eye. I was like, I was like, this is insane. I was like, I could go into debt for the rest of my life, or I could figure something else out. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is in the cards for me right now. So that was kind of heartbreaking. Like I had my whole life leading up to this point, and then it all just kind of like crumbled down. But it was like, it worked out in the end, ended up waiting tables for a while. I really enjoyed that, surprisingly. Most people hate that shit. I loved it. And
you enjoyed waiting?
I enjoyed waiting tables, yeah.
Interesting.
What was it about that you enjoyed it? Was it the people, the interaction, or just like everything going on around you?
So I wasn't at like Chili's, right? I was at kind of a more, I want to say, high scale restaurant. Okay. It was a chicken joint. It was a southern restaurant, but it was more like 4 pieces of chicken cost you $40. Like that's the kind of upscale I'm talking about,
Okay.
It was damn good chicken too. Like I have yet to have fried chicken that is as good as this. Oh my God, it was delicious. But it was just a cool place to work. The people there were awesome. I had a lot of cool friends there. There's a good relationship between like front of the house staff and back house staff, like the cooks and everybody and the waiters and the cocktail waitresses and everything. So we all really worked well together. The management was cool. It was just a fun place where like cool people came in. I got some awesome stories about meeting some celebrities who were, pretty cool, and then some celebrities who were pretty shitty.
Not so much.
Like who?
I don't know.
Who was the shitty one?
A couple hours.
Yeah.
The shittiest one.
I want to get into this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's already known because I'm not the other person. I'm not the only person. So Gene Simmons from Kiss.
I could have guessed. I mean,
I've heard about it in the past, and I was very like, oh wow, like this dude is just not a nice person. Like I don't think it's difficult to be like generally a nice person. I'm not saying we got to be best friends, but like you can just
don't be an asshole.
Yeah, don't be an asshole. Basically, like it's not that hard, especially to somebody in the service industry. Like I'm trying to make your night fun. Like don't be a dick to me. So yeah, he was a joy. But yeah, you take the good with the bad in that job, you know? So you deal with some really cool people who make your night. You deal with some shitty people who make your night worse. But at the end of the day, man, it was like a big, like, high school party. I felt like everybody was there to have fun. Music was always cranked up. Everyone's having a good time. And man, I'll tell you something about a restaurant, especially where we live. Everybody in that building, it's like high school, dude. Everyone's like hooking up with this person, and then this person was dating this person, and this one's cheating here, and then this dude crashed his car when he was. It was like a teen movie in the '80s, dude. Like, if you can imagine something happened, it happened in the restaurant business, and it was pretty fun actually. But
I was a bartender before I was a cop, and very similar. If I could have made a, I guess, livable salary for the rest of my life, I would have stayed a bartender. I enjoyed it that much.
yeah, well, it's funny. I tell people too. So I was making more money waiting tables than I did the first 5 years of me being a cop. I just finally am starting to make more than I did waiting tables.
Well, that's the same exact thing my wife said. She was like, she loved it. She loved because she was a waitress and then became a bartender, and said the same thing, was like, she loved the whole aspect of interacting with everybody. It was just a party, good time, get to know people. You hear all these stories. And then she was making more money when she eventually became a teacher. And like, we took a pay cut from when she became a teacher. And I was like, I should have said being a bartender, because you were making.
So why is that just like tips? Is that the big reason?
The
tips?
Well, you got to figure, okay, so 4 pieces of fried chicken was $40. That's one thing. You got 4 people coming, right? You've got drinks, apps. You've got everybody's ordering their own entree, right? And then if you get the big spenders, you get a second drink at the dinner service, and then you get dessert, and then maybe a post dessert drink or something like that. Those will be called like like a full service. And I mean, standard tip is 20%. So 20% of $500. I mean, that's a pretty decent, and that's one table.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Right. So, and of course it's a pooled room, so we all pooled everything. So you get a percentage of that into the cut. But yeah, dude, at 21, 22 years old, walking out the door every night with damn near $300 to $400 in my pocket, I was like, dude, it was wild, man. What about you?
Oh, that was the end of yours? All right.
I've been talking for too long.
Mine's not going to be that exciting.
What are you talking about? Yes, it is.
Yeah, I grew up in the Western United States my whole life. I was born in California, and I was kind of raised quite literally in the middle of nowhere. My dad worked for the California Highway Patrol. I think 2 years before I was born is when he started. And then I think he did 2 years, 3 years, something like that in the city. And then he got an opportunity to do like a resident spot out in the middle of just, again, nowhere, some resident post with 3 other families that lived in this just, I don't know if compound. I don't know if compound's the right word, but it's a place for the CHP officers, and then like the road workers called Caltrans. So it was all this one big neighborhood in the middle of nowhere that these officers and Caltrans families lived. And I pretty much just grew there my whole life. My backyard was a mountain, like a really big mountain, and we did hunting, all kinds of stuff like that. Just grew up very outdoorsy.
Northern California?
What's that?
Were you Northern California then?
No, this was Southern California.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I loved it there. Like, looking back on it, like I love that so much. I love that lifestyle, because we had like horses and stuff. To get groceries was always, we had to get in the car and go an hour away to the city to get groceries. To go to church was an hour away. To go to school was an hour away. And to me, that was just like the norm. I remember the first time like living in the city was
culture shock.
Yeah, well, it's when I went to the military, the Air Force, and when I say city, it was Tacoma, Washington. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. Like I remember being like, one night, I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, but I think I have to wait until I thought naturally, well, I got to wait because I can't go anywhere. And I thought, there's a Jack in the Box just down the road. I can just go get it. And stuff like that just blew my mind. And,
that's crazy.
As a young adult and just trying to, figure that out. But anyway, I like that lifestyle. And eventually I'm trying to work my way back to that kind of a lifestyle.
Yeah, he's been saying that since I met him. He's always like, I'm doing it this time. I'm moving to, named tiny town in random middle flyover state. Like he every other week, man. I swear.
I'm gonna do
Dude,
it.
he says that stuff too. We're out in Colorado, and he's sending me pictures of like things in Wyoming and stuff for sale, and like, hey, this place has a well in it and some water. live up there. I'm like, you're crazy, man.
Yeah,
Eventually,
that's
that's what I'm
awesome,
gonna be.
man. That's awesome. He's sending me like, yeah, we're in Fisheye Gulf, Iowa, and I'm like, where the fuck is that, dude?
Dude, it's the best. It is the best. Like, the more I do this job, the more and more like I really on my days off don't want to be around people. So I can imagine as soon as I retire, I'm like, I am done. Thank you for
30,
thank you for
30
years of this.
Yeah.
I am absolutely done with each and every one of you, and
Not dealing with this shit anymore.
I am going to the mountains. I am out of here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then obviously my dad is the reason that I became a cop. He did again 32 years law enforcement CSP officer, and the whole time there at that resident post. So yeah, that's where we grew up. And then I went into the Air Force at a young age. After I'm actually belonged to the Mormon Church, so I did a mission for my church in Brazil. I actually got
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
very sick there. Had to come home a little early, and then once I got better, went into the Air Force. Did 6 years Air Force, and I thought, you know what, I'm done with the Air Force life. I'm going to go back and become a cop.
What drew you to join the Air Force, get into the military? Was there anything
got me?
Yeah, was there any family or something spark it off? I don't know. I don't know your age, so I don't know 9/11. Like, if you were old enough then.
Yeah, no, I was very, very young for 9/11. That really didn't have a whole lot to do with it. My grandpa, he was in the Air Force. He was a pilot in the Air Force. I know that, and I knew I was just at this time where I kind of thought, where like do I go to college? There's nothing really I don't really want to go to college. I don't, I always have this thing about going to college anyway. Like, I'm not going to go get myself in massive amount of debt for some job. I don't want to be a doctor. I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. I'm not smart enough to be a lawyer, none of that. So college is out of the question. And I thought, the military, and well, my grandpa was in the Air Force. So went into the recruiter's office, and then 6 months later I was headed out. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, it's funny. Austin and I kind of, as I've grown older, I kind of like, that probably would have been a better route for me to take too, because at the end of the day, we're both in the same job, making the same money.
Right, doing the same thing.
Yeah, just because I spent however many thousands of dollars on a piece of paper didn't put me ahead of anybody. So
yeah, no, I'm glad I did it too.
I think you did it the right way.
I've said it before on our show. There is no way I could be a cop at 21 years old. There's no way it would have happened. Like the way my attitude was, the type of lifestyle I had, and just how immature I was, I wouldn't have lasted. Like, I needed that life experience. And in the Air Force, I was a mechanic on the C-17 aircraft. If anybody knows what that is, it's just a big plane, big ass plane. Yeah, so it has
huge plane,
huge plane. And it's taught me a lot about being just a mechanically inclined in general, anyway, which is good.
Yeah, something I lack.
Same.
The only thing that really translated over, I guess, being a cop is just getting the life experience, like learning how to just talk to people, learning, structure, and, having these NCOs above me, stuff like that. Because, man, like I said, if at 21, I would have been fired within the first year or so. There's no way I could have been a cop. Some people can do it, good for them, but not me.
I always say that, like, the military doesn't do anything for being a cop at all, other than maybe a little bit of the discipline thing. But it gets you out of that immaturity to being mature, to understanding the life, like what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. Because when we're 18, we don't know what the hell we're doing. And then even at 21, or at least in Indiana, you can't be a cop until you're 21. And so it's like, you're still young, you're still acting crazy, you're doing that. But the military brings you up and gives you that little bit of responsibility, that dedication, that discipline and everything. And then you enter into law enforcement, and it's just so you're able to grab it so much better, I think, because I've seen a lot of young people come in at 21, 22 years old, and they're just out of their minds and don't understand it.
Yeah, for sure.
We're still seeing it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that fact. If I was 21 getting into this job, man, I don't even know where I'd be right now. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to be damn near 15 years on the job at this point, but like, I don't know, man. I think when you're that young, you need some form of life experience, whether that's military, whether that's working retail or waiting tables, or doing something to where you're interacting with people, because like shoot, where we work, you can be 18 and be a firefighter. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But like, I can't imagine being 18 making firefighter money and then like having a productive life at that point. Like, no, dude, I'm spending my money on cars and bars
You're
and,
just blowing it.
you know, guns and stuff. I don't, you know, like I would be the most financially irresponsible person in the world making that kind of money. And I mean, to a point I was at 21, just waiting tables. But I think that life experience is really important because you're seeing it more and more nowadays where people don't have that. And it's kind of making it a detriment to everybody else, you know, that. And I think everyone's addicted to social media, which is not making things easier either. But hey, that's why we do this, right?
That's on social media.
Yeah.
Addicted and how
Dude,
bad
social media.
Yeah. I'm one of the biggest hypocrites when it comes to that. I always tell people, get off Instagram and YouTube. And I'm like, actually, no, wait, if you're going to go on YouTube, go to our channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Let me see your phone.
Yeah.
I think that like with the communication skills, or like at 21, I wasn't very responsible to say the least. But I also you have a life experience where you're trying to like go communicate to some like 50-year-old man and woman that are fighting, and you're trying to be the 21-year-old cop. I would have failed miserably, even when I got hired at 25 and 26. When I was like, I don't know how to go tell my mom and dad not to fight. Like now, you want me to go tell society not to fight? Like it was just I don't know. It was very challenging, even at the age of 25 when I got hired. So I couldn't imagine trying to do that at 21.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. So when I first started waiting tables, I didn't know how to talk to people. Like, you know, I could talk to my friends, I could talk to my parents, I could talk to, you know, whatever. But like, you know, going up to a table and like trying to have a fluid conversation rather than just what do you want to drink? What can I get you to eat? Like, you know, that took some time. And then it completely changed when it went from like, you know, hello, sir, how can I help you today? Blah, blah, into like, hey, sit down, shut the fuck up, listen to what I have to say. Don't, you know, but I think that life experience of doing that kind of gave me the foundation I needed to be able to talk to people because, you know, at the end of the day, my whole job was making people happy without telling them, yeah, well, fuck you, buddy. You know, you couldn't do that. You get fired. And now I can be, I'm not saying I do that with everybody, but you know,
there we go.
you can be a little bit more assertive with your requests for someone to comply with you, which you couldn't do when you were waiting tables. But I thought that was invaluable for me. And, you know, anybody else who works retail, you know, you deal with the Karens of the world and, you know, you learn how to fix that situation with a smile on your face. So it just, you know, it helped me tremendously. And I don't know where I'd be without that kind of experience.
Yeah, I'm naturally very introverted, and being a bartender literally like forced me. Either I was going to make money or I was not, and the only way I was going to make money was talking to people. And I just learned that you can communicate with a way, like for me, anyways, where I would just talk to people like I would talk to my friends, and it just worked for me. I didn't have to like play that whole role of like, oh, this is who I am, blah 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 blah. I'd be like, hey, what's up, man? Like, and then it would just work. So yeah, I don't know, but it definitely made me come out of my shell a little bit. I used to be like I could sit in a room full of 30 people and not say a word for hours. But now, if I need to talk, I can talk. I feel like.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like because I feel the same way. Like I'm very introverted. Like,
yeah, surprisingly, he is. Yeah.
My off days, I'm off, man. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. My wife's like, "Hey, you want to go shopping or something?" Like, "Hey, you want to help me?" Like, absolutely not. I would rather do a million other things than be in a store full of people. Or like, even my close friends were like, "Hey, we have this party." I'm like, "All right, I'll go because you're my friends." But anyway,
yeah, we can tell he doesn't want to be there.
But as soon as I guess I don't know, as soon as the uniform comes on, I can just start talking to people, and it's like all that goes away. As soon as the uniform comes off, though, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe every time I put the uniform on, it takes like a year off my life just going getting through all that. But yeah,
I feel like you have to though. I mean, it's like you don't have a choice at that point. It's like you said, you know, when you were bartending, you either are making money or you're not, and that's dependent on you. And I'll tell you, in policing situations, I've gotten out of more situations with this than I have with these. So it just
it puts you in that you have to do something. You have to talk to people because you're going to those calls or you're going to a situation or whatever's happening. You got to interject yourself. You got to be forceful, and you got to be. And I don't mean forceful like with your fists. I mean like your voice. You're projecting yourself as authority, and it just makes you leave that introverted place and be like, hey, I have to do my job. Same as waitressing, bartending. You know, doing all these things where you got to communicate with people. And when you're on the job, you put on that uniform, you got to do it. And then in your home life, it's much more like, hey, I'm going to go back to what I am inside. I'm just going to be here. Hey, I don't want to be around people. I don't need to do that. You know,
put your snuggie on, lay on the couch, and just do nothing for 3 days.
Exactly. Because that's how I am all the time. I'm like, hey, I just want. My wife asked me last night, hey, what are we going to do? And I'm like, for Mardi Gras, and I'm like, oh, I'm going over to Kinney's to do a podcast, but she's like, I'm just going to lay on the couch. Like, that's just what you want to do, you know? And she's a school teacher. She's got to be out there. And if you ever met her, she's like, she's loud and she's like fun and everything when she's out teaching kids. And same thing, get home and just be like, hey, let's relax. Let's be cool. So I think a lot of us are like that.
Austin, I have a question. Oh, I have a question. So being introverted, working all day, do you go home and are you exhausted from just having to be out there and communicate?
I don't know if it's that bad. Especially after 7 years now.
Yeah, we've been on a while.
I've taken a lot of pride in being able to learn, and like trust me, by no means am I the greatest cop out there, but I take a lot of pride in knowing how to talk to people. Like I've talked myself out of fighting people than I have actually getting them to fight, and I take pride in that. And I think after just so many years, it's I've developed that like that muscle, I guess. That's a good way to explain it, to where it's not exhausting. And I think it could be if I work maybe day shift where, I just got done working all morning, afternoon, and then I still had my evening with my family. Well, I don't know what some departments call. We call it swing shift. Some departments call it like third shift or whatever. So as soon as I come home, it's midnight,
almost 1. Yeah,
I take a shower and I just go to sleep. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know really how to answer that question, because maybe I haven't even thought about it. Maybe I don't really have the opportunity or time to think about, am I exhausted from just talking to people, or if I'm just tired because I'm supposed to be, it's late at night and I'm going to bed.
I think it depends on the situation too, because like I had a guy probably 3-4 weeks ago now, and he was drunk, so he didn't understand everything that was going on. But I arrested him, and then we had to go to the hospital because he had some injury, not caused by me, but caused by the incident we got called by. And in the hospital, it was just 4.5 hours of him just repeatedly asking the same question: what he's being charged with, why he's being charged with this. Well, I did this, so how is this the case? And I'm like, I got home and I laid in bed, and the last thing I remember hearing before I fell asleep in like 45 seconds, which never happens to me, was just me telling him like, dude, you are mentally exhausting me right now. Like, stop. And then I fell asleep, which never happens.
I think your problem is you entertain them. They're just crazy. Like, and they repeat themselves over and over again. You need to get to a point where you're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Ignore them.
I tried that for like 45 seconds and he just kept going. It was just da, 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 da. And I'm like, ignore it. Do your paperwork, ignore it. And then I just couldn't. I was like, I have to, like, I think what I'm doing is I'm trying to hope that by me just continuously like interjecting with them, that they'll finally get it and it'll just stop. But it never happens that way.
No, it's not.
No.
Never.
They think you like them at that point. Like, oh, look, I got a friend now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, and that was the thing. If he was being friendly, it would have been something else. But this guy was being, oh my gosh, like when you have a 4 foot, like she probably wasn't 4 feet tall, probably like 5 feet tall nurse, this little Filipino lady coming in, and she's yelling at the guy, "You need to shut the fuck up. You are disturbing my other patients." I'm like, that's when you know you've been a little bit too much for the evening. And I was like, dude, listen to the lady. Like, just take a nap, watch TV, do something. Like, please.
Yeah.
Austin, did you play any sports in high school or college?
No college. Baseball has kind of been my thing. I love baseball. Played shortstop. They tried to put me in as a pitcher one time, a couple times. I don't know why, but that was a complete nightmare. And but yeah, I love baseball. It's kind of like my only thing. I watch baseball. I like watching football, obviously, stuff like that. Not as much as, again, baseball, but it's never good enough for college or anything. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
How do you guys feel the team sport aspect transition to your profession now?
Well, I definitely think it has something to do with it. I mean, when I played football in high school, I mean, again, I was very mediocre, right? I made the team, played the games, went to practice, but, I wasn't Rudy or anything like that. So, well, I guess that wouldn't be a good example because Rudy wasn't
Rudy
like
sucked.
that either. Yeah, I wasn't. I don't know. Insert amazing story of superstar quarterback here, but
yeah, you were Rudy.
Yeah, I was Rudy. Yeah, made one good play and then everyone carried me off the field on their shoulders. I wish. But I think the main thing too is it teaches you. We all have a common goal, right? You take, 20 to 50 individuals and you put them towards a common goal, right? Winning, or running the ball, or scoring a touchdown, or completing a pass. Insert whatever. And when everyone has that combined goal, everybody seems to be on the same page and everyone works together to try to get to that end goal. And I think that that is something that's important, because in policing, I always tell people policing is a team sport. Yes, you can be your individual and you can go out and do your own stuff, but when shit hits the fan, dude, you're jumping on the radio, you're calling for help. And that's important, I feel like, in this job, because I went through a situation earlier last year where if I didn't have people that came to show up to help me, I probably would have died. And it's a team sport, and we all need to be more receptive to that, I feel like. But that's just my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, no, I've kind of feel the same way. And I've always liked that kind of like the team aspect and everything, whether it's like high school sports. I saw it a lot in the military, even though it was the Air Force. I mean, rightfully so, we get made fun of. Don't get me wrong, but there's still that.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
Yeah, there's still that. There was still that, especially I guess in the career field we were in, it was a little more militaresque than the rest out there. Some of the other jobs. So there's still that team and that camaraderie there, and I really enjoyed it. And then naturally, just going to the police department and becoming a cop, and still kind of carrying that. I'm seeing, and I don't know if that's just because we're a bigger agency.
Yeah,
I've noticed in like large agencies like ours, it's still there. Like Matt had, like you said, he went through an incident, stuff like that, where we are very good at coming together. If a cop needs help, like now, like on the radio, oh man, it's try to stop me.
Yeah.
But then it's those times where it's those down times, or when it's not as important. It feels like, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but it feels like in bigger agencies, because there's so many opportunities to go somewhere else, that they're more just in for themselves. Like, I want to do everything I can in this job and on this call to make myself look good, so I can make this special unit or this detective or that person or that SWAT guy look, like what I just did, so I can eventually go there before you take care of your team or your squad, wherever you want to call it. And I'm noticing that more and more, that as soon as, especially like new officers, get on the streets, their immediate goal is, how do I get out of here? Out of patrol? How do I go to this next thing, instead of just focusing on your team now and what we're doing here? And I don't know if maybe that's just all police departments, because, like, are smaller agencies like this? I don't know.
I mean, I think you're seeing a lot more as the younger ones come in and get started. They want that. They expect that immediate, like, hey, I'm going to go get exactly what I want, or whether it's, special assignment, promotions, whatever. They think that they've already earned it or something. They're entitled to it. And I mean, I work for a smaller agency, and it's like that now. It's just how it is, and I hear it all around it when I go and teach, because the majority of the agencies that I teach for are the smaller, mid-levels. We did the metropolitan, the big departments, they do all mostly internal stuff. So I hear it the same from them a lot, is like, hey, these guys are coming in, and 1-2 years are like, hey, when am I going to go to street crimes, or when am I going to go to interdiction, or when am I going to go to gangs or be a detective? And like, you haven't earned nothing yet. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, take your time, bud. Yeah, like 30 years.
And I'm all about, like, years on the job doesn't always mean,
oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
What's what I'm looking for? Years experience.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that, but
right,
in a lot of cases it does. I know, and now I'm starting to almost feel foolish, because my first goal, like, I laid out these goals as a cop of, hey, I want to at least do 5 good solid years on patrol, because I want to be a good professional street cop. I want to be able to know my area front and back. I want to be able to, experience all those things as, being a cop. And then I can start focusing on other things. And in that time it took, that you got a bunch of all these new guys started to come in, and then they don't have that same goal, which is fine. I get it. Everybody has their own goals, but their goals are, I need to get off patrol as fast as possible. So they started filling all those special spots. I'm like, well, did I miss my turn? Like, was that foolish to wait?
Now? I'm like,
yeah,
I'm stuck here now.
I'm expired now. Like, I think it should count for something, being a patrol guy for that long. Like, those are some of the best leaders I've had in my whole career.
Yeah.
And I'll say it right now, like, I mean, it's not going to give away anything, but my lieutenant right now, hands down, probably the best lieutenant in the entire department.
I agree.
And it's because he did so much time on patrol and really learned patrol and got to be with the boys and learning how to be with the team and taking pride in it. And he is such a good lieutenant.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to, if you take your job as a patrol officer seriously and you learn to be a good patrol officer, anything after that, I believe you can just excel at. And
yeah, it's kind of funny too, because that was Austin's mentality going into it. My mentality when I signed up was, I don't want to be a beat cop. I want to get to be an investigator as soon as possible, because that's what I enjoyed, right? When I was prepping for law school, I enjoyed the investigative aspect. I enjoyed looking at the case, seeing what happened, seeing what went right, what went wrong, what I can use, what can I kind of shoehorn in there to try to get my case to be one that I can win. So that was my mentality with it. And I was like, I'm not going to be a street cop for too long. The first chance I get, I'm going to go off. And then, I've been next to Austin for the past 7 years on patrol, and that's all I've been as a street cop. And I loved it. I love every minute of it. And it's just, I think that people need to open themselves up to, the idea that, hey, you got 30 years. That's a long time. Depends on the department, but you got a long time in this job. Don't be in such a rush to go somewhere and forget exactly where you're at, because, you can have some of the most fun, some of the most exciting, some of the most crazy times of your life just pushing a black and white and, dealing with the beat every day. And it's something that I'm really grateful that I finally understood a couple years into it. You know,
I agree.
I don't think that you even have a complete understanding of what a cop is or being a cop until you have 5 years on. And that's not me saying like, oh, you shouldn't do anything else, but I'm like, to just know, I don't know. Even at 5 years, I was probably fucking still lost half the time. But like,
or even at 7, I don't know what I'm doing half the time.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so like to go to a specialty that early on, you are literally limiting yourself on where your career can go. Because if you can't fall back on that 5 year foundation of generalized patrol of every aspect of it, and now in 2 or 3 years you're in this niche little area of law enforcement, are you going to go back to patrol to get a better foundation? I just feel like you're building a foundation on I don't know, shaky ground, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that is going to ruffle some feathers, which it shouldn't, I feel like. But
I don't know why it has to ruffle some feathers. You could, well, you're just jealous.
Love me or hate me. Yeah.
You never got to go, so you're just a hater or whatever. I'm like, no, like, I don't know. It's just my thoughts. I don't know. I don't know how to say it more than I already said it. So,
law enforcement, first responders, military veterans, we see things and put our body through stuff that no one else in society has to deal with. We are good at coping with it mentally, but it still takes a toll on our body. Hormone replacement therapy is a great way to keep your body functioning as it should. And I'm not talking about walking around looking like you're Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just the typical body that we need to function in society with mental health, mental clarity, performance in all aspects of life. I have several family members and friends that have turned to hormone replacement therapy in order to produce a better life for themselves and their family. We are thrilled to partner with HPTRT, veteran and first responder owned company that knows what we are looking for and what we need. They actually care about the first responders, they actually care about veterans. They know what we're going through, and they are willing to help us in any facet of life. Not only with the hormone replacement therapies, but also medical doctors that have partnered with major pharmacies across the country and willing to do any type of telehealth that you need. If you're feeling sick and you want to lay on your couch and do a teleconference, they will send medications to major pharmacies that they have partnered with. So if you need any type of medical assistance, from hormone replacement therapy all the way up until you just feel like shit and need some telehealth, HPTRT is the place to go. Use code RED, R-E-D,
to get 10%.
Yeah, and I think, like you're talking about your lieutenant, I think people discount that too much of guys and girls that stay in patrol for their career. Like that's their specialty. Why don't we consider patrol a specialty? Like that's something, everybody's like, oh, when you get in trouble, we're going to kick you down to patrol, or everybody, I want to get off patrol, or whatever it is. But why isn't patrol a specialty? Because if you learn your craft and that's what you're good at, then you're just as important as that investigator, the interdiction guy, or whatever it is. Because I have no ambition ever to get off patrol. I've never wanted to. I mean, I did specialties. I was on the SWAT team and I enjoyed that. And I did those
Solid.
little things because we don't have a full-time SWAT team, we're only a part-time. So I got to do that on the side.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be an investigator. I don't want to go into admin. I don't want to, and in my department, we don't have anything else. We don't have interdiction teams. We don't got street crimes. We don't have narcotics and stuff like that. So there's nothing else besides investigations and like school resource officers or something like that to go into. So it's like, I love patrol. That's where I want to be. I like being out. I like driving my car. I like being in the public and what's wrong with that? But it seems that there's too much in our world that they're like, patrol is just like what everybody can do.
Yeah, and I think that sucks because it's like at the end of the day, a police department's first responsibility should be, in my opinion, and I think to others as well, should be patrol. Like, if you don't have patrol cops, who's going to go pick up your warrants? Who's going to go investigate your crimes? Who's going to respond first on scene to that shooting, that stabbing, that homicide, that sexual assault, that whatever? It's the patrol guys. And at the end of the day, there's a guy on YouTube who has far more followers than both of us combined. And he said it best. He was just like, everything a department should be focused on is benefiting patrol because they are the backbone. And if you don't have patrol, you don't have a police department.
Nope, I completely agree. I feel like if you don't have happy patrolmen, your department's in shambles too. Like, so
100%.
in order to like make the department better, you have to ensure that patrol's happy. Patrol's typically the biggest portion of most police departments anyways. And if you have unrest in patrol, it makes everything else miserable. Again, it's a team effort. So in order to have all these specialties, you have to have patrol, you have to have them happy, and you have to have them knowledgeable on how to do the job and be effective at their job in order to have any other specialties.
Yeah, and I think it goes down to as well, like we as cops sometimes focus too much on the job. Like I've really tried to kind of, I don't want to say leave the job at the job, but like my first few years on, I was definitely married to the job. Like I was working overtime all this time. I was, every time I go out just talking about cop stories and all this stuff. And it's like at some point too, you got to be like, hey, I'm a person too. Like I have to do other things other than this. And it's like you try to do things that make you happy outside of work, which I mean, that's part of the reason we did this podcast is we try to occupy our time with other things. I mean, mind the fact that we're doing a police podcast, but still, it's a niche. It's something to do. It's something we enjoy. But I think it's important too for cops to, and all first responders for that matter, to do things outside of work that aren't work related, And it's important to try to make yourself happy because the worst thing you can do is just put yourself in a rut. And then you get into that like miserable, salty old patrol guy attitude, which I don't think anybody enjoys.
I'm almost there.
Yeah, he's been almost there.
Yeah.
7 years, that's quick.
Yeah, that is pretty quick. Did you guys know each other before you became cops or no?
No. So we've talked about it before. This guy actually hated my ass in the academy. We were not friends.
I remember, I don't even know what it was about him being academy. It was like, because he got put into like a
class
leadership positions a couple times in the academy,
which I hated.
And I remember thinking like, man, that guy's such a dork. Like this guy's annoying. Like, man, something about it, I just couldn't understand him. And then like, one thing, I know it's kind of a stupid story, but
no, let's hear it.
I was like in between classes in the academy, I was like going to the bathroom and it took forever to put my belt and everything back on after I flushed the toilet. And then he comes in and he didn't hear that I flushed the toilet. He just sees me walking out of the stall. He's like, hey, shoot, did you flush that toilet? And I looked at him like, who the fuck do you think I am? I'm like, of course I flushed the toilet. I'm like,
it was just a question.
Yeah.
Jesus,
like, oh no, yeah, I just left a giant shit in there. Okay.
Well, hey, knowing our luck, that would have happened, and then we would have been running laps the entire day. So
I remember, like, I did that on purpose. So I was like, yeah, look what I left in there for you.
I was like, that's the last straw. I can't stand this guy.
Yeah. And then I transferred to his squad probably 3-4 years in, and I could tell he's like kind of hesitant. And then like 2 weeks later, we're like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? Like we're like best friends. And it's like,
yeah, you're kind of cool. Never mind.
Yeah. We had this other dude we're in the academy with, and I remember he told me probably less than a year ago. So this has been years in the past. And he finally texts this dude. He's like, hey, by the way, Matt's cool. He's like, oh, okay, good to know now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's funny how those kind of things happen.
So Austin, I just want to touch on this because I'm super intrigued by it. Why in the hell did CHP have a little outpost with like no one there in society, but they had 3 cops that worked in the middle of nowhere?
Because it was just such a remote area of, are you familiar with the I-15?
Yep.
The interstate?
Yep.
So it was basically the very southern end of the I-15 for California. And that stretch of land, that stretch of highway, it's so remote that they don't need a whole lot of officers out there, but it's enough to where they can have a resident post there for officers to handle from basically the state line pretty much all the way to, I don't know if you're familiar with the cities, but like Barstow, California, which is where the main headquarters was for CHP. And then they're just a branch off of that headquarters throughout Barstow, Baker, and then to the state line. So they needed officers out there. And my dad grew up very, I guess the same way, grew up middle of nowhere. He grew up doing rodeo and hunting and fishing his whole life, and grew up on, small like farm, did ranch work and stuff. So as soon as that opportunity was available to him, he jumped right on that, and he wanted us pretty much be raised that way. And yeah, it was because of where it's at, he got some of the craziest stories, and I wish I could get him on our podcast.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
He's actually he retired, then became a judge.
Oh wow!
So he's hesitant to come on to tell some stories because he's like,
oh, he's still a judge.
Yeah, he's a judge. He's like,
oh yeah, I could understand that.
He's like, I can't be. I can't be
like a shiesty or something,
because he's got some wild stories there. Just some he's got a really good shooting story and some other stuff, and but yeah, it's a really busy part of the 15 anyway. So
was that post did the three of them just one person working a shift out there? Is that why that section, or how did that work?
So I got to try to remember. So where it was, there's 3 houses that the state has, 3 families live there. And then other officers from, I believe it was from Barstow, they can come in from Barstow to come help. It's also part of their assignment. I don't remember exactly how it was. Again, I didn't really pay attention to that aspect of it, but there was more than just 3 officers that worked that whole area.
Okay.
But there was 3 that lived there permanently in case, I guess they had to have at least the 3 for emergencies and stuff. Cause I remember my dad getting called out middle of the night, all the time, crashes, all kinds of stuff. But on top of that, it's constant, the shift work. I know some of the graveyard, I know some in a pinch, Barstow guys would come down and help out with things and then stuff like that. So I don't remember exactly, but more than 3 officers.
Yeah.
So now we know why Austin became a cop. Matthew, sorry. Why did you become a cop?
You're good. Mateo, yeah. Just call me anything but dipshit. That's fine. So when I was waiting tables, we had an incident that occurred where it was a mass casualty / active assailant type situation. Not at the place I worked, but basically the trickle down, it kind of became like it happened there without giving away too much information. But I was working and we basically had everything on lockdown, and we have customers in the back, and we're stay away from the window, stay away from the door, and I'm sitting there just going antsy. I want to go help. I see all these cops running around. I see all these firefighters, these medical people. These guys are out here putting themselves in danger, trying to make sure that the person next to them goes home. And I felt like such a coward that I was just bunkered down in this back hallway with all my coworkers and all these customers. And I'm trying to get up and go out and help. And my manager's like, dude, you need to sit down, stay here. What are you doing? And I'm like, I can't just do nothing. I'm not saying I'm super brave or I'm this gung ho, woohoo kind of guy. I just, I don't like just sitting by when somebody or something is happening and someone needs help. I'm just not that kind of guy. So the very next day after that, I signed up to be a police officer, and it took me about a year to get on, but I've been loving every minute of it, honestly. Well, almost every minute of it, but I know I alluded to it earlier. I got shot back in February of last year. That sucked. Not fun at all. But even going through that situation, there's still nothing I'd rather be doing. This is, I believe, what I was made to do, honestly.
So you only applied with one agency one time and got hired?
Yep, one agency, one time, went through the testing process. I got lucky because I know that is definitely not the case for everybody. I know there's people that apply to 5 different agencies over the course of a couple of years, and they get a spot maybe. And then, so I got very lucky. I'm not going to sit back and pretend like I didn't. I think I've had a lot of luck in my life, honestly. But the the fact that it all just kind of worked out that way, because like I said, I was going to be a defense attorney and I was going to be on this other side of this. And it's funny how life works out, because I'm still friends with a lot of those people that I went to college with, and who actually went to law school and now are lawyers and are doing this kind of thing. So it's just kind of funny how things like that work out. It all comes down to choices. They made their choice to do that, I made my choice to do this, and at the end of the day, we're all doing well, I feel like. And it's just something I can be proud of.
You glossed over being shot. Can you talk about that? Like that was like,
Yeah,
and I was shot
yeah.
and just walked away.
Yeah,
No big deal.
I know. I try to, yeah. So basically, what happened? It was relatively early in the shift. We were probably on for about an hour, and we get a call that there is this guy who's running around on the highway, and the caller said he was trying to get hit by cars. So we treated that as like suicidal subject. So this highway is a pretty big highway that goes through our city. So my partner's on one side of it, I'm on the other side of it. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go north, you go south, we'll try to find him. Hopefully he's not on the highway anymore, because I feel like that call happens a lot.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to cross, or there's a homeless guy who's living under the overpass and he's got to cross a couple lanes to get there or whatever. And for some reason, it always comes out as someone trying to get hit by cars. So that happened. So I go north, my buddy goes south. It's rush hour traffic. There's construction going on. It's a shit show, right? So he broadcasts, hey, I think I got him. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll get off the highway, make a U-turn, go back up the other way. So then all of a sudden you hear like the radio go off and you hear him like breathing heavy. And he's like, hey, he's running in the middle of the street. Like I'm in pursuit. And so we're like, oh shit. So flip on the lights. But again, it takes me, God, I don't even know. It took me minutes to get there. It was kind of like, you're like white knuckled on the steering wheel because there's nowhere to go. There's traffic and everything was just a shit show. So I finally get to where he is and I see these two people. I see this dude just bolting across the highway and I see a cop, my partner, behind him. As I'm driving up there, they go behind this like car that I can't see, and he broadcasts over there. He's like, hey, he's trying to carjack someone. And I'm like, oh shit, this took a turn. So we go from suicidal subject, foot pursuit, to now, hey, felonious carjacking. Like, this is bad. We got to get this guy stopped. We got to get him in custody now before he hurts himself or somebody else. So my buddy's been running for a couple of minutes. He's gassed. So I take over the primary on the pursuit. He goes around a semi truck. I go around the back. As I round the corner, this dude is pulling on a door handle of some car. So I draw my gun out. I tell him to get on the ground. He's not listening. He starts running the other way. So I throw my gun back in the holster and I start chasing him again. So I start gaining ground on the guy and I'm like, awesome. I'm going to tackle him. I'm going to take him to the ground. We'll take him into custody. Bing, bang. Everything will be great. So I tackle him. But when I tackled him, we fell in this like weird, I still don't even know how to describe it. Basically, like his sweatshirt was coming off. So we kind of like slipped my grip. And then like we both fell to the ground, but like he was kind of behind me, if that makes sense. He starts reaching over. I thought he was going to just go for like a body grip. And then next thing I hear is boom. And I was like, what the hell? I look down. He's got his hand on my gun and he's pulling it out of the holster. And so I was like, oh shit. So the first round, I later find out, ends up going out the bottom of the holster. And I'm trying to push it back in, but the retentions aren't activating because you shot a round out the bottom. So we're fighting for the gun while we're like on the ground. And then all of a sudden it's boom, boom, boom. And one of those 3 rounds went into my leg. And like I felt it and I was like, oh shit, that's not good. But I'm like, I'm still fighting for my life right now. Like if this dude gets a hold of this gun, like I'm dead. So I'm like, all right, holster's not working. So I like throw the gun up in the air and we're like fighting for it above ourselves while we're still on the ground. I grab over on the slide and I'm trying to like turn the gun toward him so that if I can like get it toward him, I can pull the trigger and, hopefully stop the fight. So then one more round gets fired off. I didn't know it at the time, but I had my hand over the ejection port. So the round didn't kick out, so it jammed the gun. Well, I still don't know this. So I hear my partner coming up and I'm like, he's got my gun. And I'm like, oh shit, dude, this is not good. Like I'm hit. So the next thing I know, a taser goes off and the guy lets go of the gun. And so I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, fight's over. I get up and I try walking on my leg and I'm like, I can't. I'm like, oh fuck, dude, this is not good. So I try to take a step and I just collapse. And then I don't even remember. Like, I guess I let go of the gun at some point or I threw it off to the median or something. But I go down and I like feel and there's just blood everywhere. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, all right, I got to stop the bleed. So I'm like, tourniquet, cool. So I keep a tourniquet around my right leg, the same leg I got shot in. So I throw that thing on and I crank that thing down, and that's when the pain started hurting. I was like, I started feeling it right there. I was like, whoa, this hurts. And so I get the tourniquet on there and I broadcast over the radio, hey, I've been shot. And I like kind of like laid down on the concrete or the asphalt for a minute. And I'm just like, oh shit, like is this it? I'm like, fuck, like that sucks. And then next thing I hear is just a bunch of people yelling my name, and I see two people running towards me. One is my buddy Russell, and then the other is my friend Derek, who is like our executive producer. He's been on the show a few times, just stand-up guy. So these two guys rush over, they just throw me in the air, they grab me, and then we start running off. And he's like, are you hit? Are you hit? I'm like, yeah, I'm hit. And then Derek throws me in the back of the patrol car of this just random cop who just heard what was going on and just showed up. Like, he didn't work our area. I never met this guy before in the past. He just showed up. They threw me in the back of the car, and the next thing I know, we're hightailing it to the hospital. And we're in the back of the car, and Derek, who is just a phenomenal human being, just he like starts triaging me, like cuts the pant leg off, like, all right, hey, bleeding looks controlled, or hey, I told him to this day, I'm like, I could have punched you in the jaw, dude. He grabbed the tourniquet and he tightened it more because it was still bleeding. And oh my God, I have never felt pain that painful in my life. And I was like, dude, I love you like a brother, but I could have punched you in the jaw when you did that, dude. That hurt so bad. So we get to the hospital, and on the way to the hospital, I found out Derek totaled his car getting to me because he heard what happened. He crashed into the back of another unit that it's locked up in front of him. So his airbag didn't go off. So he had a concussion and ended up rupturing a bunch of shit in his back. So this dude is like trying to save my life while he's in pain. And then, they get me to the hospital. They pump me full of morphine or whatever they pump me full of. And then, I had to go through a couple surgeries and a lot of PT, had to relearn how to walk on that leg. And it was not a good situation to be in, but I survived and still doing what I love.
And now you won't stop talking about it.
Yeah. Well, everyone asks about it. Shit. Yeah.
I'm glad you're all right, man. What were the injuries that you sustained?
So the bullet entered my right thigh at point blank range. It's funny. So in the X-ray, the bullet shattered into like 1,000 pieces, and it's kind of cool on the X-ray because you can just see like all these little specks of metal. But there's a little divot where my femur is. So the bullet went in, hit my femur, and then exploded. Every doctor I've talked to is like, at that range with that round, your femur should have exploded. There's no reason on God's green earth why your femur is still intact. And the fact that you were able to stand up, they're like, you should have and ultimately too, they said that bullet, when it shattered your femur, it probably would have severed your femoral and you probably would have died. Wow. So it's like,
that milk you drink.
I maybe, man, I don't know. Like, I did drink a lot of milk as a kid, but like, I don't know if that was it, or I chalk it up to God was watching out for me, and he said, it's not yet your time. And he just made it to where, yeah, this sucks, but dude, it could have been a lot worse. So yeah, that wasn't fun. I still have hundreds of pieces of metal in my leg when they, I didn't bring it. So I got the bullet back after the court case, which I guess doesn't happen very often. So I was kind of like a special circumstance, but there are only like 5 chunks of metal in that cup, like the medical cup. And when I started counting on the X-ray, there's hundreds of pieces of metal in my leg still. So I'm like,
jeez, man.
So I set off metal detectors at airports now, and it's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys, you need to hang that bullet up somewhere in that studio.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I still have the cup, and I like 3D printed this like wooden box thing that I keep it in, and it's just sitting on my counter right now. But I want to do something with it. I just don't know. I've heard people say like make it into a necklace, or
it just doesn't seem like it's like, because
it doesn't look like a bullet.
When you think like projectile, you think of like a good solid like bullet.
Yeah,
it's just
it's like fragments of metal.
It's this fragment, like small fragment, because I think most of it is probably just in your leg.
Yeah,
that's just the biggest piece.
Yeah,
so
yeah, because I guess what happened. So the main chunk of the bullet, like the biggest fragment, lodged right behind my knee, which was excruciating to deal with. But it was like a millimeter away from coming out of my skin. And they were like, no, we're just going to leave that. And I'm like, dude, it hurts. And they're like, well, like, it's going to cause more damage. I'm like, look, dude, you can take it out, or I'm going to get an X-Acto knife and a bottle of vodka, and I'm going to take it out myself. So I'd rather you guys do it, but I'll do it myself if I have to.
I dare you.
Yeah. And they were like, all right, fine. We're fixing the thing up here. We'll fix that too. And I'm like, all right, thank you. That's all I wanted. So
how were you mentally after that?
Oh, I'm still not 100% there, dude. It was really bad in the first month or two after, you're dealing with a lot of emotions like, hey, I failed. Hey, I almost got killed. Hey, I almost got other people killed, And then after extensive amounts of therapy and, just coming to the realization of like, hey, I didn't fail. Like I made mistakes. Like mistakes were made, yeah, but I survived. That's a win. I'm still here. I'm still talking to people. Right. I still got my friends, my family. So it's still a struggle. Don't get me wrong, but it's something I have to deal with. It's something I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life. But I try not to let it control me, and I just try to treat every day like it's a gift because that call went from very routine to not routine very quickly. And yeah, the main thing was just like, am I going to get to see my wife again? Like, am I going to get to like hang out with my buddies and have a beer? Like, it's just like all those things go through your head in like a minute. And I was like, damn. So I try not to take things for granted anymore. I try to be more optimistic about things.
One last question about it. How did you have to break that to your wife, or how'd that go?
So
that story.
Yeah, that's a great story. So again, Derek, one of my best friends, we're in the car and I'm like, hey dude, you got to call my wife. Like, you got to let her know what's going on. He's like, I don't have my phone. It's in my car. And I'm like, all right. So I pull my phone out of my pocket. It's just drenched in blood, but it still works. Like the bullet didn't go through my phone, which was cool. So I'm like, hey, here. And I hand him my phone. And I'm like, you got to call my wife. Well, again, I didn't know that Derek had a concussion. So we're almost at the hospital. And he's like, oh, I have your phone. Let's take a selfie. So we take a selfie in the back of the car while I'm freaking bleeding out. He's just trying to keep me calm, which is the best part. But so I wasn't there when that happened so they wheel me into trauma and they cut my clothes off and I'm laying on a gurney naked in front of, I don't know, 100 people that I didn't know, that's
what's up.
That was awful. That was worse than getting shot, I think. I was like, yo, it's a little cold. Can I get a blanket? Doesn't normally look like this. It's just cold. So then Derek gets there and the medical staff is like, hey dude, you're fucked up too. Like, let's get you evaluated. So they take him to another room. And so he dials my wife and I don't know if it was the concussion or something else, but the story's been told a little differently depending on who you ask, but he goes, hey, it's Derek. Matthew got shot. And my wife's like, huh?
Long pause.
And he's like, oh, he's fine, by the way. And my wife's like, you could have led with that. And then, at that point, everyone starts getting notified. So my parents show up and my in-laws and my wife and everybody. And that sucked watching them walk in and they're just bawling, dude. I'm like, guys, I'm fine, relax. And they're just like, they didn't take it well either. But I do like that story because I got to kind of repay that favor back to Derek because he took a ricochet to the face one day at the range and had to go to the hospital. He was fine. He just cut up his nose really good, but he was like, you have to call my wife. And I was like, okay, I get to repay this. This is great. But I led with, hey, he's fine. But so she was happy about that.
What do you guys do outside of work, man? We talked way too much about cop shit on this, so let's talk about
I know. I was like,
some other shit.
No, I'm just kidding. Dude, I love anything outdoorsy. I love hunting, fishing, camping. Big into off-roading. I have a built Toyota Tacoma I like.
One I'm very jealous of.
Yeah. I'm actually going on I'm so excited. Pretty good deer hunt this September in Idaho. I like to do a lot of that kind of stuff. It's just anything outdoorsy. I just love being outside. The mountain, middle of the desert, stuff like that. So it's kind of where I like to be.
We kind of do that a lot. Our group of friends, like, we're all relatively outdoorsy. I like fishing. I've only gone hunting once and it was not very successful. So I'm hoping that I can kind of fix that one day. But yeah, we like a lot of outdoor stuff. I'm kind of a nerd at heart too. I like video games. I like watching anime. I like building shit, so that's just kind of what I enjoy doing on my off.
I didn't know he liked anime until after we became friends.
Yeah.
I would have known that before. I'm like, all right.
Well, yeah. Hey, bro, you got to give it a chance, all right?
Like, he still sucks. Never mind.
Yeah. Like, disregard that last message. I'm going to get you to enjoy something, I promise. Yeah. You got to give it a chance, dude.
You guys have any kids?
Yeah, I do. He doesn't.
I don't. I got 2 dogs.
I got 3 kids.
They take enough of my time, so. Kids terrify me.
With your kids, would you encourage them to be in law enforcement or discourage them?
Hell no. I don't even have them, and I'm saying no.
I don't know. Here, it's just, I think in order to answer that question, I got to kind of see who they grow up to be, I guess. Like, I'm doing my best to raise them the right way, and they're turning out to be great kids. I love my kids.
I hope you do.
They're absolutely, yeah.
I hope you love them.
They're absolutely my entire world. Like, they mean the world to me. But if I feel like they end up growing up not being suitable for the job, then no. But if I think that they could go out there and actually be a good cop, actually, take care of business, and like if I knew that the community could benefit from them being a police officer, then yeah, I mean, I would.
No way.
I mean, it'd be hard for me because I just know how shitty the job can be.
Yeah.
And I would definitely suggest other stuff. But I mean, if I can see that what they're going to do would be a benefit to some people, then yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm on the other fence of that because Austin's a stronger guy than I am. If my kid expressed any aspirations of being in the police department, I would tell them absolutely fucking not. Like, go be a firefighter, go be a doctor, go work on Wall Street and make $1 bajillion and take care of me when I retire. Like, do something other than this, because while I love what I do, I can't imagine being what my parents saw me in a hospital bed laying there with a bullet in my leg. So I don't know if that's where this comes from, but like, I always tell people there's no song called "Fuck the Fire Department." It's always "Fuck the Police."
Right.
There's never any riots because a firefighter doesn't put out a burning building in time. Like, there's just so many other avenues out there to where I'm like, yeah, I like what I'm doing, but do as I say, not as I do, man. Like, and again, I don't fault people. Like, if my kid really wanted to do it, I'm not going to tell him I'd forbid it, because at the end of the day, it's not my decision. But I don't know. I would hope that they would see the sacrifices that I've made in this career, and how, any of us in this job, when you retire, you're going to be bruised, you're going to be scarred, you're going to be broken. There's going to be mental anguish. There's going to be things that I don't want for my kids. And just dealing with the amount of PTSD I have to deal with at 7, 8 years on, I would never want that for my kid. And if they went through something like that, I would be absolutely broken inside, because I feel like that's my fault. But, again, too, it's not my decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
How Austin, did your dad ever have anything to say about you becoming a cop?
Yeah, a little bit. I could tell that he didn't want me to, but he wasn't pushing me not to be. He would always, hey, you have these options. He'd always, when I was still in the Air Force, I was still talking about like what careers I could do, because I knew I didn't want to be in the Air Force forever or retire. I knew after 6 years I was done. So we would talk a lot about it, and it always come back to being a police officer. And I guess he was kind of the same attitude, I guess, I have with my kids, is, hey, I would rather you explore your options, but if this is what you want to do, then yeah, go for it. And, he's been excited about it. We talk a lot about it because he was a firearms instructor. Even though they were, highway patrol doesn't always get they get made fun of, just the ticket guys, the crash guys.
The goofy hats.
They did. I'm not just saying this because my dad's CHP. CHP trains very well. They are pretty squared away highway patrol, just police department. They and he was big. He was an active shooter instructor, firearms instructor. Did all kinds of stuff, and just being able to, every time I get off work, or I need a vent or something like that, I can talk to him about things. And he's the only person in my life that understands, well, besides my friends here, but like somebody that's outside my circle I can talk to, that that's not related to my department. And I can vent to him and he can talk to me about things, and he's like, well, yeah, I've been there. And kind of brings me back down to, hey, it's just gonna suck sometimes, but then you just get through it and you're good. And I'm like, you're right. And it's nice having a dad that has been there, done that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Cool. I could sit here and talk to you guys all day, but I don't know if anyone else would listen to it all day. So I got to kind of wrap this up. And we always end our podcast with one question, and I guess you guys get to answer it together. I don't really like that concept, but it's going to work. So we teach for Justice Academy. So what is your definition of justice?
I think we have differing definitions.
You think so?
I know what mine is. So I take a procedural law approach, and I guess that's my time trying to get into law school. But my definition of justice, and this could piss you off, that's fine. I don't always believe justice is that the victim gets, recompensated and that the suspect goes to jail. I believe truly, and this comes down to me being a constitutionalist, is that there are fundamental principles of law and order that go into what our founding fathers had in mind for us. And part of that is making sure that the process is upheld. Legal representation, making sure that your rights aren't violated, making sure that you have the best point of saying, hey, I didn't do this. And if you did, obviously the evidence should show that you did. So I believe that justice is when you defend the process, not the man. Because at the end of the day, too, as being a police officer who has arrested countless people, at the same time, if I was a lawyer, I'd have no trouble, well, maybe one or two people, but no trouble defending them in court. You know, I have my job, they have their job, because at the end of the day, things can flip, right? So maybe it's not that guy on that side of the bench, but it's me, and I'm being accused of something that I didn't do. I would hope that if that's me on that end, that I have the best possible chance of representing myself to say that, hey, I didn't do this and this is why. And I think that that's important, because if we don't have that, then, you know, you just look into Mussolini's Italy or Hitler's Germany or Mao's China, and it's just, you know, bad things can happen. I really, really believe that justice is the system and making sure that it is equal for everybody. And I know, unfortunately, it hasn't been that way throughout history, but I hope that as we move forward, that is something that starts becoming more evident, if that makes sense.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, man. That's the first answer that's went down that route of justice is the process and not necessarily the individuals involved, which is, I like it, man. It's a different perspective for sure.
Yeah,
Austin, that one's gonna be tough to top. So go ahead.
I should have gone last. Sorry,
mine's not even close to being like. I try not to. I don't know. I'm not really thought about it, but it's just paying your debt to society for something you did wrong. I mean, trying to think too hard into it, because when I do, I start thinking about all my drop cases. So
yeah, we try not to.
Don't follow your cases. Don't follow them.
Don't follow your cases.
I don't follow them. I mean, yeah, I don't anymore. So, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys.
What he said, but double.
Well, I appreciate you guys joining us on Beyond the Barrel, and maybe we'll do it again, man. I could sit here and talk to you guys for a long time.
Yeah,
thanks for having us on, man. This is fun. It's cool to be on this end of it for the change.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
This is cool.